Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9 to 5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast, the #1 podcast for the strategies, tactics, and actions high wage earners need for living an intentionally designed life of wealth and resilience.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more confident as well as comfortable in creating a wealthy life as well as one that's resilient. I'm your host, Billy Keels, and you know what? I really want to say thank you right from the get-go for continuing to tag us across social media, specifically LinkedIn and Instagram. Really means the world to us. Thanks for leaving your honest written reviews as well as your ratings, because it helps to keep us in the top 1.5% of podcasts globally. And there's like literally over 3.2 million or 3.3 million podcasts. You do the math, like 1.5% of that. And we're in the top 1.5% across all podcasts. So thank you for continuing to invest your time here, gaining value and giving us your feedback, because we continue to evolve the podcast. Now we're well into, 390 plus episodes. And the fact that you're here and you continue to be here and share and bring others to the podcast really means the world to us. So also, speaking of which, if you want to check out any of the previous podcasts, just go to billykeels.com/podcast. Once again, that's billykeels.com/podcast. So as we continue to share with you and help you to get to that life that is a wealthy life and one that's resilient, there's a couple new things that, hopefully you're feeling this through the solo episodes, that really want to give you some perspective. And a lot of it comes from the perspectives, things that I have learned and seen, things that have worked. Also going to be very transparent, vulnerable with you, things that have not worked, because if I can help you to move forward, and move forward faster and in a way that minimizes you making the same mistakes that I did, and you can accelerate and do some of the things that work for me, and hopefully that will help you to move forward faster, then that's going to be really the basis for you to continue to come back here. So really appreciate that. And one of the things, and this is, I'm going to put both hands up here, and if you're watching the video version, you see it. As someone who's a recovering perfectionist, and I say recovering because I'm aware of the things now, like I used to just be a perfectionist, and what I realized is that perfectionism, although it was really, really great for me in kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school, college, sometimes it didn't necessarily work in the real world. Why? Because there's this whole concept of paralysis analysis that came in, and I want to share something with you that will help you to crush it. I actually watched this. There was a video that I saw of Jeff Bezos, and he was talking about paralysis analysis and how to kind of deal with it. And I thought, well, you know what? This is something that I struggled with for a really, really long time. And I'll even take you, let me take you back to when I was a student, like really, like, I'm going to take you, I won't go to middle school. Let's go to high school, because it won't really bother you that much. High school and college. Well, I was I was kind of the person that studied a lot. I don't know what names you have for them now. Back in the day, I guess it was kind of nerdy. And that's fine. I was comfortable with that. And I'm still comfortable with that, because that was my life. And, I had found and carved out a lot of time to study. I worked really hard. I got really good grades. Some people said I was kind of smart too. Still trying to figure that one out. But I graduated with very high grades in high school and in college. And the fact that I studied a lot, I got the outcomes, which were like getting A's, B's sometimes on my exams. Like I was receiving recognition. So I was like, okay, I studied hard. I took the test and I got the grade. I don't know really how much I learned, but that's a whole different stuff. That's a whole different podcast episode. But the thing is what happened is after that, and I got my 2 college degrees. So there's positive reinforcement once again, great grades in college. I started taking that into my career. And so as I took that into my career, it was a matter of, okay, I wanted to study the manual. I wanted to do all the right things. And, I got at the beginning, the travel director of the year, the rookie travel director of the year in my first role, and then the travel director of the year. And then later on got other accolades and working across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and the performer of the year, and in the top 1% of sellers for a very large organization that has over 150,000 employees. And so it was like the constant reinforcement, except things kind of changed a little bit later on. So when you want to make this leap of faith, like I wanted to continue to get A's on tests all the time, like as I moved into my professional career. And to some extent, you have the training program and all the things that were there. And so I just had to follow a path. Well, eventually, once I and I've talked about this multiple times, like I had a life event and I missed my oldest son's third birthday party, right? I saw him on his third birthday. I just didn't make it to the party. And so I realized that if I didn't take action, if I didn't do something different, like that could happen again. And for me as a person that was a young father, like I just wasn't willing to let that happen again. So I had to figure out like, okay, this is now something new. And so I decided I wanted to get into this investing thing. And it wasn't something where I didn't have to think about it, where I just like let my, your 401k, you don't even think about it. You just put it on autopilot and you don't ever think about it. You don't really know it's even investing in. Like I wanted to take control and actually understand the outcome and have an input to an outcome. So I chose to invest in real estate, but it wasn't as easy as that, right? Because I went through some feelings. I thought, well, if I make this leap, there's not really a real manual because every place is different. Maybe if this doesn't work, I'm going to get egg on my face and I won't look like the guy who got really good grades. Or you know what? Would I miss something? And that created fear inside of me, like because there was no manual for me to follow. So either people were going to be laughing at me on the outside, going, "Man, I told you don't ever do that," or they were going to like internally, I was going to know that, hey, I may miss something, and if I miss something, and then I'm not going to get an A on the test, quote unquote, and buying the right property. So I had all this like nervousness. I had to get through feeling weird. I had to get over the fear of losing money because if I didn't do those things, my position was going to stay the same. So I was just going to continue to be in this analysis paralysis and studying and looking at more things. And actually, I'm just going to tell on myself a little bit. I actually went, just to give you an idea, from 2012 October 2012 until December 2015, just watching videos, listening to podcasts, going through all of the different formulas. So your revenue minus expenses gets to your NOI, and that minus your debt service gets you to what is your cash after debt service or your net profit or however you want to call it, right? Like I knew all of those formulas and I knew them perfectly. But the thing is, after 2 years and a bit, I still not made any purchases. So I finally got to a position where I said, look, I've got to make a decision now. And I've got to make a decision based on imperfect information because I was frustrated and I realized that I was losing time. I realized that I wasn't moving forward. I started to get really, really frustrated. And eventually I got to a property that looked close enough to what I wanted. But more importantly, I was feeling in my gut that I was missing an opportunity to actually truly be free, to move towards that plan that I'd written down in October of 2012. Well, the reality is that 5 year plan, once I started taking action on imperfect information, I was able to accomplish what was a 5 year plan. So 60 months, 60 was accomplished in 18 months. Why? Well, because not only had I made the first purchase of the property, when that's the thing that helped me realize, like, okay, everything's not going to be perfect. More importantly, it helped me to realize that I was going to have to continue to take action on imperfect information. I had to be able to have a certain set of criteria that was going to allow me to, for lack of a better term, make the go decision. And so what I realized is like the more that you think about things, and I don't mean just go into something blindly without doing any kind of diligence. I don't mean that. But what I mean is don't specifically wait for all of the stoplights to be green before you leave your home to get to a destination. Recognize that things are going to be imperfect. And if you want to move forward, if you want to absolutely crush, and I mean crush paralysis analysis, it's take action. Literally take action. Like that's the thing that changed my life. When I took action, I realized now I was in the game. Now things were going to start moving. Now I could adjust according to the plan. Now I could understand if the path was the right path or if the path was one that I was going to have to make a little bit of a deviation in. But while I was just looking at the numbers and going through the numbers and looking over things and watching it again and asking more people, like it was just generating in my stomach, in my heart, in my head, more and more stress because I wasn't taking action. The moment I took action and the moment I got in the game, it relieved all of that stress. It made me heightened. The tension was heightened. I started watching things. I started asking questions that were based on reality, not on assumptions. It was what was happening. So then every time I had an interaction with somebody and I was saying, hey, look, I made this decision based on XYZ criteria, but this has happened. Have you seen that before? What did you do? Then it became a question of the paralysis analysis was gone. Now it was in the game, right? And so it's the fastest way to crush paralysis analysis. It's get in the game. It's take action. And sometimes it's going to be on imperfect information, right? And one of the things that I'm also working and helping, especially for those of you who may be recovering perfectionists or perfectionists right now, and you realize that you don't want to just stay in your corporate job for the rest of your life. You'd like to also have a plan that is based on something that you are doing, that you are in control of. If you feel like you need some help with that, any of this kind of resonates with you, because I've been there, I've done that. One of the things I'm doing now is in a very high touch, one-on-one advisory capacity, working with individuals that want to move the needle, that are ready to like start to change some and create some new alternatives for your life. Go to billykeels.com/advising. Find out a little bit more about how I'm helping very specific high paid individuals who are, or maybe you're in a high stress job and you want to be able to move the needle. Go to billykeels.com/advising. It's going to tell you a little bit about the program. It's going to also give you an application that you can fill out. We can be in touch, but just take a couple seconds to do that. billykeels.com/advising. If any of this resonates with you, and if it resonates with you and you want to do it on your own, well, you got it. So take this conversation, run with it. And also too, if you want to ask a question, feel free to do that. You can go to our newsletter. It's going to start to do more and more of the newsletters, more and more in contact with you. You can just go to billykeels.com. You can find out about the newsletter there. And listen, everybody, I want you to take today's conversation, take the solo episode, share it with a couple friends, challenge each other on the ideas, talk about some of the things that resonate with you. Does any of the emotional stuff resonate with you? Because I've been there, done that. And maybe that's the thing that you need, is just to hear it from somebody else's perspective. So while you're talking about this, while you're sharing it, I'll be here preparing for the next conversation or solo episode. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9-to-5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.